The views and opinions expressed by hosts and guests on Patriots with Grit do not necessarily reflect those of Patriots with Grit LLC, its founders, and owners.
Get ready for truth bombs and guidance from conservative leaders and entrepreneurs from God-fearing, freedom-loving, truth-telling, patriotic Americans. Welcome to Patriots with Grit. Now let's jump into today's episode with your host, Darren Ross.
Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another awesome episode here at Patriots with Grit. I'm Darren Ross with my awesome co-host here, Randy Mansell. We got an awesome guest coming on here for you guys today. But Randy, what are we going to talk about here in the first 60 days of number 47?
Well, I tell you what, everybody's saying now that they're so tired of the winning. You know, it's
exhausting.
overwhelming. I can't keep up with it. You know, yesterday's news is so old because three other things have happened. It's incredible stuff that's going on.
I mean, just 2 or 3 days ago, we brought in Bongino with Cash. I tell you, it just never seems to stop. I'm exhausted. It's like I've been running on a treadmill for the last 37 days.
Yep. And the other thing that we want to talk about, too, today is Bobby Kennedy Jr. and the transformation he's going to make with the medical and the health industry.
And Maha. But we have an awesome guest today that what we've seen here several times throughout the interwebs, and we wanted to get her on for quite a while. Mary Grace from Mary Grace TV. Thanks so much for joining us here on Patriots with Grit. Now, if you don't know Mary Grace, she's this little bitty fireball, kind of like a cross between a pit bull and a Doberman, I would say, Randy. You know, she's feisty. I'm married to a little Italian, and I thought she was mean, but I think you may give her a run for her money. So, Mary Grace, thanks so much for joining us here today. Coming in from the East Coast, you are, and we may have a little internet lag. I know that your internet company just provided you with new internet to enhance your experience. So we want to apologize to our guests in advance if there is a little bit of lag or latency. So thanks for joining us on this show today. And I know you have a lot lined up for us and for our guests.
Well, thanks, guys, for inviting me on. It's an honor to be here talking to you about the first 37 days of 47. And as far as the internet, I think the fired government workers are probably now working for Xfinity. So
they're picking up cheap labor.
Because all the illegals are gone. That's probably why.
That explains so much, and so we're having a little latency here. If I look like a cheap Chinese knockoff film, it's because this was all recorded in Shanghai in a bootleg theater and imported to my computer. Okay. So, but that's okay. We'll live with it. Thank you again, guys, for having me on. It's great to be here.
Well, I know you're an independent journalist, commentator, public speaker, accomplished musician, vocalist, songwriter, entrepreneur, host of the Mary Grace on Mary Grace Show on Rumble.
Yep.
You have I would say somewhat of a deep dive researcher. I mean, there's a lot of fireball gals out there, Mel K and Lee Dundas. We talked about her before you came on the show today, but you have kind of your own lane, your own avenue that you run in. So I know you do a lot of deep research on this. Talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing there coming from the East Coast, because you're pretty close to the swamp, correct?
I am. I'm about 2 hours from there, and I don't spend nearly as much time up there as I used to. When President Trump was in office the first time and he had the Trump Hotel, it was delightful to go up and spend time up there and hang out in America's living room. And then I was actually there at the fake inauguration of Fakety Fake 46. And we were staying at the Trump Hotel, and it was a surreal experience because they were still in full-blown pandemic fear porn mode, and they wouldn't even let you sit in the lobby. So we were staying in our you had to eat in your room. You couldn't even take a glass of wine down to the lobby. And we kind of jokingly said, like, if anybody wants to find us at the Trump Hotel, just come up to cell block 810. That's where we're going to be. And it was just this crazy, like, ghost-like experience. And even when we left the hotel to check out, there were no porters, nothing. Like it was like just kind of wandering through. If you've ever seen those abandoned Chinese cities that spring up in the middle of nowhere with nobody around, that's what it felt like. That's what all of DC was like, because they had shut down all indoor dining. and they were being extra punitive toward the Trump Hotel. And that's why we couldn't even take our own glass of wine to the lobby. I mean, because they had spies in the hotel who were looking to report them to the mayor's office, and then of course they would get fines and infractions and things like that. It was crazy. And even the inauguration, such as it was, the whole situation was just nuts. Now, I think I should go up soon and get a look at what's happening now that they're doing all the firings and sending people packing. It'll probably be an easy commute because no traffic, right? Except for those people that were forced to go back to work, those poor people. But it's interesting. I live in a suburb outside of Charlottesville, Virginia. So another commie bastion that used to be, literally was like the cradle of democracy, right? Thomas Jefferson's home, all that. They've ruined it with wokeness. Yeah, that's where we are.
Well,
Ugh.
it just seems to never stop. But I know what you do. You tend to bring on all kinds of guests, and you like to bring, I would say, a sense of hope and motivation to all the chaos that goes on. There's 24/7 just nonsensical news playing in our heads and our ears and on our idiot boxes all the time, and like you said, fear porn a while ago. But I mean, you like to bring some sort of just a calmness to that whole thing. And I think you do a good job of that with your shows. But talk to us a little bit about that and how you're doing that and what that's doing for your viewers and your audience.
Well, I've always been sort of level-headed when it comes to processing information, and I have the ability to take people out to sort of a 30,000-foot view of a situation and help people to get into critical thinking mode, so that they can take a step back and stop the emotional response to a situation. And I think people are gravitating toward that because there's so much clickbait out there, and there's so much like outrage porn and panic porn, and people do it for clicks, they do it for ratings, but it keeps people in a heightened state of anxiety. And a lot of times when there's something interesting happening, whether it's a crash or physical or market crash, or a really interesting big piece of news that's happening, a lot of times people will come to my channel to help them get grounded, and because they know that I'm going to kind of dial it back and go, okay, let's look at what's really happening here. Let's just think about it. Especially when you have competing voices telling people what to think or how to think on a topic. My guidance is simply just stop and think. Like, don't react emotionally. Protect your mind, control your emotions, understand that you are being played even by people who are supposedly on your side, meaning so-called conservative media, Con Inc., people like that who have made themselves a convenient landing place for the fake news refugees who are looking for the truth. People like Ben Shapiro, right? They've capitalized on this movement, and they keep people in a state of constant fear and outrage, if you ask me. It's just that they're doing it with a conservative slant. Um, and so my role really is to bring people back to their senses, right? Sometimes I just have to like slap people and go, stop reacting. um just focus, 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 focus. Don't keep chasing every little rabbit trail and be addicted to the adrenaline of the latest headline, because that's what they want. They want you to be addicted to headlines and clicks. They don't want you actually thinking deeply and critically about anything that's going on, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, or anything in between. And so I like to say that I'm the voice of reason to help people navigate all of these things, whether it's politics, culture, wellness, faith, world events. That's where I fall in the spectrum. And it's funny because when crazy things start to happen, I always get messages like, Mary Grace, are you going to go live? Because we need you to talk. We need to hear you talk about this.
Talking us off the bridge, man.
Yeah, they're like, just talk us off the ledge. We know that the ledge is imaginary, but we still need to hear your voice. So that's kind of the reputation I have gained. And then the other thing I do is I'm one of those people that somehow managed to grow a following on Facebook. And
You're
I take a
fortunate. You're
lot.
very
I,
fortunate.
it's crazy. Yeah, it's very much a God thing. And I'm almost at 100,000. So we're going to put out a big press release and have a big party that I survived that long on Facebook. And so, I find a lot of content on X that I feel is relevant and interesting, and I sometimes just, repackage it and put it on Facebook because a lot of my people on Facebook still aren't on X. And even if they are, they prefer the more interactive platform of Facebook, and they're used to it. I mean, they're Gen X, boomers, that kind of thing, like smart people. And people make fun of the Facebook audience, but they're actually very dialed in and articulate and well read, and they understand what's going on. They just choose to be on a different platform. And a lot of them have been very quiet for years now. They've been lurking and commenting and in the background. Now, in the last 37 days, it's a whole different story. It's like the giant has awoken from the sleep, and they're commenting like crazy. They're sharing. It's crazy, and they're just like, "Oh yeah." It's sort of like Braveheart, right? Everybody's got the face paint, and they're over being censored. They're over being silenced. They're over the cancel culture. They have been let loose, and it's great to see because I know they've always been there, but they've been sort of shamed and put in the corner. And now the Facebook audience is sort of like, nobody puts baby in the corner. That's where they are. They're done.
I've been out of the corner for the last 5 years, Randy. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I don't know if we ever got out of it,
But you mentioned a clickbait. Hang on a sec. You mentioned clickbait a while ago. Right before the show, Randy was talking. He's like, "Hey, I saw something on X today. This guy came out and said, Trump's going to sign an executive order to end HOAs." I'm like, "That's fake. That's a bunch of crap. That's not going to happen."
Said it's unconstitutional.
And just like that, I've got to the point now where I can almost spot. I mean, when I read something, I'm like, "Oh yeah, that'd be so awesome. I can't wait till this happens." Then I have to dial it back in and rethink it and play it back. I'm like, that's not gonna play out. That's not gonna come to fruition. And there's so much of that, even on the conservative side, like you said, that's going on. Like you said, the word clickbait or whatever. That it's frustrating to say the least.
Right. A lot of people really taking advantage of the thirst for knowledge. And there was one that I saw last week that was going around about how President Trump is gathering both houses of Congress on March 4th, and that he's commanding that every single rep and senator be in attendance. And for those who aren't in the know about how things work, it's easy to take that as gospel, because it's written with such authority. Well, it's not true. What they're talking about is the State of the Union address. And they're taking that, and they're spinning it into something to make it sound like Trump is having a command performance of all these people as though he were in charge of them, right? He's not the boss of Congress and the Senate. It's co-equal branches, right? And so it's not even his show. He's invited by the Speaker of the House to address the nation and to address Congress, and the judiciary is invited. Everybody's invited. The only people who aren't invited are Congress, because that's their house. And so that's the kind of thing where people, unscrupulous people, really take advantage of people who are looking for something happen. They're looking for, they're tapping into a confirmation bias. Because the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of things that Trump can do. I mean, he is the boss, but they can't do everything. And that's one of them. Like, he's not in charge of Congress. He can't boss them around. He can, he can tell the governor of, of Maine that her career is over because she's the smart ass. He can tell her that, and he can probably make that happen, because he's going to take her to court. But that's different, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she chose to get into a pissing, can I say that on a
You're
pissing
fine.
match with him. And so he's like, I mean, one of us has a red button and it actually works. We we've already played this movie. How it ends. And you're not even as cute as Kim Jong-un. So why would you think you can, why would you even try that? I mean, you look
I
like a man, and you're fighting me on a topic that you're not going to win in court.
And then later the video comes out of her doing the um, what do you call it? Not the trans dance, but the transgender thing on the stage, drag queen stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I just sometimes people are too stupid for their own good, and they get, the thing about the left is that they're so they're so principled that they they are the biggest contributors to their own demise.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen it in business that they will stand on principle and completely run a company into the ground financially because Orange Man bad. They don't care. I mean, if I like shareholders, forget them. We're doing trans, you know. Customers, forget it. We're doing trans. We don't care what the people say because principles matter. They're more important than anything. Groupthink.
Yeah,
And so they
principles.
shoot themselves. Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're very they're ideologues, and it's coming back to bite them because they can't get out of their own way.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, it's like in their minds they think that they are, flying a Concorde jet because they're so high-minded, but really they're in a Yugo. And all of their principles, no matter how hard they hit the gas, they're not getting out of first gear. And we're leaving that, MAGA's leaving them behind, Maha is leaving them behind, and they still think they have this air of moral superiority. And you're just going, you think you've got the high ground here, but you literally are driving a Yugo.
Well, and Darren and I see it all the time, just kind of monitoring Facebook and people we know, that they're better off not saying anything because it really shows their intellect
Or lack of.
lack of
Lack
intellect. It's like I told him, Trump, they're griping at, these people getting laid off and Doge is unconstitutional. And it's like, we've been wanting something like this that should have been done decades ago.
This is what we voted for.
Yeah, well, they didn't because they still wanted Biden and Kamala in. But the bottom line is, I told him he could put them on a paradise island with piles of gold and slaves, and they'd still gripe about it.
Well, he could say, we're going to give you all $50,000, $100,000 each, and people would still complain. Like you said, Orange Man bad. It just amazes me, and what they're uncovering with all these people that are getting Social Security that have been dead for years and years and years. And you don't hear any of your liberal lunatic friends complaining about their tax dollars going to that.
No.
But they just want to complain and moan and gripe and whine about all the nonsense just because, Trump supposedly, pinched some gal or something 30 years ago. It doesn't make any sense. But I want to talk about two things. I would like to get into, Mary Grace. I want to talk about what we're seeing regarding some of the wins that Trump has had for the first 60 days in office. And I want to get into some of the deets on RFK and what you're seeing happening there with that Maha movement. So let's start out with the whole the wins for Trump as he's been in here now for the first, Not quite 2 months.
Yeah, I think the biggest win is that he came out swinging. And like he didn't waste any time. He didn't give the fake news even a moment to set a narrative. And one of the things that was happening during his first administration is that he didn't really think he was going to win. And he didn't have a plan in place uh, to the extent that he does now. And and so the mistake that the left made, and the uniparty and the deep state, the biggest mistake was giving him an extra 4 years.
Absolutely.
Because one of the things that I don't think people understand about Trump as a developer and a builder is that he's meticulous. That when he builds a building, when he plans something, he's involved in every stage of the building, like, down to the color
The
of
landscaping.
the landscaping, the nails, the toilet paper holders in the bathrooms. Like, and he's involved in the whole process. He's on site, or one of his sons is on site. And what does that mean? It means that he's thinking about the whole big picture. And when you think about the fact that they did him dirty and then they raided his wife's underwear drawer, it's like, you give a man of that intellect and ability 4 years to plan the comeback and the takedown. I mean, like, you chose wrong.
Hmm.
They, like, on day one they realize that we didn't really plan that too well. Like, we should have just let him stay in office and continue to railroad him, and then taken over the world and continued the 16-year plan to destroy America. But we were so blinded by rage, and we're not that smart to begin with, that we kicked him out and tried to cripple him with lawfare, and that didn't work because God's on his side. And so, to me, it was, they sort of, yeah, they messed up. Because it's like one of those Bond movies where you think that the villain thinks they've won, and then, like, the side of the mountain rolls back and all of these supersonic jets come out from their hiding place, and they just literally obliterate everybody. That's what Trump is doing. It's like, you hear the jet noise and the engine noise, and everything is revving up, and like, everywhere you look, there's another port opening and there's another jet poised to take off. That's what's happening right now. And because he's going so fast, the fake news can't even keep up with one day's worth of news,
No.
much less get ahead of it and set the narrative. And here's an example. So it's not, I mean, the things that he's doing are remarkable, but the speed is really what is even more remarkable. And I'll give you an example. The press gaggle, who are like a bunch of smooth-brained teleprompter readers with about a double-digit IQ, they're told what to say, right? So they're reduced to the pressing question of, who's in charge of Doge? Who is really
Oh,
running Doge? Like, that's all they got, because they're just so back on their heels. And then you get people like the AP being blackballed because they won't even acknowledge what Trump has done with the Gulf of America. Now you have the White House Correspondents Association being completely railroaded and canceled. I mean, this is a big deal, that he's not only is he going so fast that he's not even giving them a chance to think or formulate a narrative, he is now literally canceling their ability to control the narrative. It's remarkable. And nobody saw it coming. Every time he does something, they're used to having days and days and days to get ahead of the narrative, and now they're constantly on defense. And then once they get the spin, he's doing something else, like something else big. Like, okay, three more hostages back. Okay, IRS is closing. Okay, USAID is closed. Here you go, guys. Here's your box. You got 15 minutes to fill it up. I mean, they don't know whether they're coming or going. And they don't know where to station their reporters. So they can't even ambush people in Trump's administration because they don't know where they're coming from. I mean, it's D-Day on steroids. It's like D-Day. If D-Day and Groundhog Day had a baby, that's what Trump is doing right now.
Well, it's kind of funny because if you think about it, the last 4 years prior to this election,
Yeah,
and even back to 16, the Great Awakening was the big term. And
yeah,
now we've kind of progressed. It's a little bit overlapped, but now we've progressed into the Great Shakedown.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's scorched earth, and and now, okay, so we've had Cash in office as the FBI director for what, 4 days?
Yeah.
And we've got General Flynn out there saying, "Hey, Comey, you better give up who you know." Comey, he's like, "I know who I'm talking about. If you don't start naming names and giving up, you are going to be in prison. Like you're already going to be in prison. But if you give up who we know you need to give up, then maybe you'll be in Club Fed instead of Leavenworth." That's the message he's sending. And people who think that General Flynn is not part of the administration are like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. The only thing about General Flynn is that he doesn't have an official role.
Right.
Anybody who thinks that he's not, you know, on the ground, like ear to the ground, intel, he's got their numbers. He knows where the bodies are buried and he knows who buried them. Do you think that he's not talking to Kash Patel? You think he hasn't talked to Kash Patel over the last 4 years? Those guys, I mean, wouldn't you love to be in the skiff with
I
them?
would love to be in that.
Yeah. So we got Cash coming, Cash. And
Well, so think about the funny thing I was telling my wife too is when Cash was going through all of the hearings,
yeah,
the people that had to finally approve him in, it's like they probably want to throw up because they're
yeah,
approving the person that's going to put them under.
Purge them.
Purge them. That's a good word. And with
yeah.
that, I know the butts were puckered.
Well, yeah, I think I think everybody should buy stock in Depends because I think these people are going through quite a bit. I don't think they're sleeping. I think if anybody, I mean, if you're into pharmaceuticals, Ambien would be a good stock to buy. Whoever
Don't you
makes
think Adam
Ambien.
Schiff looks sleepy?
Oh my God.
He looks
Adam
tired.
Schiff, yeah, watermelon head. Um, he's yeah, he has reason to be losing sleep. He sure does. And the other thing too is that um Dan Bongino is the backup plan. So if they take Cash out, they got to deal with Dan Bongino. Dan Bongino, like he's been pissed off for 8 years, you know? So and he's seen some things and he's got all kinds of insider intel. And so it's like they they can't win. No matter what they do, they can't win. And if somehow they manage to take Cash out, then who's in the wings? General Flynn, uh maybe Admiral Rogers. Nobody's talked about him. There's other people in the background who could fill Cash's shoes in a minute. And so this is another reason these people are so scared, is because they know that, it's not just one person that they're up against. It's that person and the whole team that's behind them. That's what's really scaring them. And the people behind the scenes that we don't even know about that are officers and generals and like the real, like Trump says, not the TV generals, Those people have been waiting for this moment, and they've been gathering intel, and they've been saving information in every agency, and they're ready to spill the beans. And I think a lot of them already have. I mean, there's been high-level meetings happening in Washington, D.C. all last summer. I mean, I know people who've been involved in those. This whole thing was being planned and executed meticulously all summer, if not before that. So this didn't, Trump didn't just walk in the White House and go, okay, let's make a plan.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our spring percale and Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Well, I think one thing that's beautiful, we talked about how he came out swinging that night when he as soon as he got, sworn in or not sworn in, but got
Inauguration.
The inauguration. I can't think.
Yeah.
I mean, within hours, J6ers it was like, open the jail doors, let them out. We know a guy very well here in the Kansas City area. We had, Randy, you and I sat down and had dinner with him 2 days before he went to prison in August. I just helped him do a project here about a week and a half ago for his company. And he was home, literally back here in Kansas City by like 9:30 a.m. the next morning. So basically Trump starts signing, jail doors start opening, and he starts driving. And he gets home to Kansas City. I think, he shows up at his wife's work about 9:30 a.m. and surprises the heck out of her. But I think today I got an update, and I think they said there's four J6ers still remain in prison today, which is still horrific. But we're down to only 4 from what I'm hearing.
Yeah. One was released. Was it this morning? Jeremy Brown.
Jeremy Brown was it was this morning.
He really?
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
We had him on the show several months ago, and he had to call in like 5 times because they only give him 15 minutes. They cut their phone. 15 minutes, they cut their phone. So he called in from a jail in Florida, and but yeah, I just got an update today on that he was released.
Yeah. The things that these judges are doing, it's criminal. I mean, yeah, they
I always
are.
call them actors in black robes. I mean, they are nothing but actors in black robes.
Yeah, exactly. And so just going back to Trump's accomplishments, it's like I said, it's not so much, I mean, the things that he's doing are amazing. He's the what he's doing financially is incredible. And I think that it's almost surreal to think about the fact that the American people are very likely to get back the money that has been stolen from us and pay down the debt. You have some people saying, well, no, don't send people $5,000 because we need that money to pay down the debt. And my thinking about that is, first of all, people need way more than 5,000. That should just be a down payment.
I want 5,000 with interest and penalty.
Well, I want like 500,000 with interest and penalty because of what they've spent and what we could have been making. Think about all the taxes you paid that you could have been investing, right? Everybody should have like $1 million or at least. But here's the thing that people miss about Trump is they think of Trump as sort of a linear thinker, because a lot of people are linear thinkers. What do I mean by that? They think, well, if everybody gets $5,000 and you multiply that by 350 million or however many taxpayers, like 180 million, right? Then that means that's money that could be used to pay down the debt. So we can't do that. We just have to use that money to pay down the debt. Meanwhile, you've got President Trump out there looking at multiple angles for financing all this, right? He's just, close this down, claw this money back, close this down, claw this money back. close this down. Stop paying these clowns who never contributed a dime to NATO. Shut off the WHO. Oh, there's some money we're going to get back. And then, by the way, we're going to charge highly qualified, highly vetted people $5 million for a visa, and we already have 250,000 people on the waiting list. Oh, wait, there's that pace. That's our deficit. And so you have this multifaceted thinker, and meanwhile, people are going, well, if everybody gets 5,000, then we're not going to pay our debt. So you're like, listen, guys, the stable genius is in charge. I think you should let him do the money part. And then just cash the check when you get it. Don't try to outthink Trump, because you're not going to do it.
Well, and I think the liberals should send it back because they'll think it's dirty money.
They should. They absolutely, yeah, 100%. And they can go to Ukraine. They can go to Canada.
Germany.
They can go to Haiti. They're upset that we're sending people back to Haiti. Well, you can go with
Just
them
go.
and help them. Just
Or
go help
Portugal.
them.
You can go to Portugal too. So
Go to
inside story there.
Somalia. Yeah. I mean, you can go help them if that's really on your heart to do that. Go. But don't take our money to do it. That's all.
Well, let's talk about the other thing here, the whole medical and health. I mean, we
RFK.
are the most obese country around and sickest, and our kids are sick. So, Bobby Kennedy, I had a friend of mine tell me he was a lunatic and was unqualified.
Your friend's a lunatic?
No, not him.
Okay.
Bobby is.
Okay. I think it's your friend who
Well,
you're really talking about, if I know who it is. So,
but so you know what? I just basically am like, I put my trust in him because he already is talking things that we already have problems with.
Sure. Here's the thing. When people like that come out and say so and so is unqualified, so and so is a lunatic, you look at a person, I don't know your buddy, but my guess is that your buddy has probably some health problems, maybe overweight, probably on some prescription meds, maybe his kids are overweight, whatever. You look at somebody like that and you think like, okay, yeah, so you're qualified to judge this this person. Like, oh, you're the expert. Okay, yeah, no, talk to the hand, not listening to you. So, the thing that people miss about Bobby Kennedy is that he has spent years in litigation against these drug companies again, and so he understands the issue on a deeper level than most people realize. But if those people are listening to the teleprompter readers on the fake news, then they're gonna hear what they're being told, which is dictated by, oh, wait for it, big pharma. So of course they're going to tell everybody that Bobby Kennedy's an idiot and that he's unqualified because he's not a doctor. Well, guess what? Fauci's not a doctor either, never wore a stethoscope. And yet they worshipped at the altar of the little rat fink who killed people during the AIDS crisis. And the left used to actually hate Fauci, by the way, because of what he did to people during AIDS. They hated him. They protested him. There's articles written about how horrible he was. And then all of a sudden, he's the savior of COVID. And so there's that. But the point being, people believe whatever the fake news tells them to believe. We, on the other hand, trade in facts. What is that meme that says, I would challenge you to a battle of the wits, but I can see that you are unarmed?
Haven't seen that one.
That's where we are. And so when you have these people who are telling you this kind of thing, they're repeating and regurgitating what the fake news tells them. Here's what I know. I know that RFK Jr. has headed up the Children's Health Defense, that on his podcast, even before he was even considered as head of HHS, he was interviewing people like Joel Salatin. You guys know who Joel Salatin
I know
is?
who he is. The
Joel
lunatic
Salatin.
farmer, isn't it?
The lunatic farmer. He is one of the foremost experts in regenerative farming and agriculture. He lives about 2 hours from us, and we can get his farm products, in our town and everywhere, and from local distributors. And so, RFK has been arming himself with information and doing the deep dives and the research that most people on the left wouldn't bother to do. And so, what does that mean? He also understands how the machine works, because I think people may have forgotten the deep state killed his uncle and his father. So this is a man who has been up close and personal, has up close and personal experience with the blob, with the machine. And of course, he is making it his mission to see that they don't continue to destroy lives. Um, but most importantly is, he's been praying about this for years. He's the one thing that he's asked God for every single day is, please give me the opportunity to make a lasting change on the health of our nation and on generations to come. I mean, who does that, right? Not even his children. And the thing about him that really strikes me, it's similar to what we see with Trump. You have somebody who has essentially everything materially that they need. He doesn't need the job. Trump didn't need the job, but they're thinking generationally, and they're thinking about, they love their country so much, and they love all of mankind so much that they want this nation to continue to thrive and not just to survive. And that's what drives them. You see Trump with his grandchildren, right? And you understand that there is something much, much deeper than just the job. The same thing with RFK Jr. He is single-mindedly dedicated to seeing a reversal of metabolic disease in our nation in his lifetime. And I believe it can be done. Is it a big task? Yes, because you're turning an entire ocean liner. You're getting a cruise ship off the docks, and you've got people holding on to the lines trying to keep you from unhooking it from the dock, right? Or they're sabotaging the tugboats or whatever they can do. So it's kind of like when Trump was in office the first time, he was doing everything with, like, his own offensive line kept tackling him. And right, we're seeing that sort of with RFK Jr. All the people who supposedly were Democrats, now they've turned on him. Um, but he's undeterred, and I think he's going to make a big impact. Um, and the thing that I think is really good about it is that he has, because Trump brought him in, it brought people into the movement who wouldn't normally have been part of this. So the coalition to cross over to the independent voters, to some, like, not insane Democrats, um, that was a big accomplishment, and he couldn't that couldn't have happened without Bobby Kennedy. So I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful about what we're going to see policy wise. I think one of the biggest things for him to do is to get a handle on what's going on with big pharma, and stopping the ads, just stopping people from getting brainwashed. So cutting off the obvious things, cutting the poisoning of the food, and then also I would say that cutting regulation. That's a big one, because all of this, the USDA, the regulations, the FDA, those types of things, yeah, that's a big deal, because when you're dealing with a blob that has made its mission to destroy the independent farmers, you have to cut that off at the knees, so that we can, as you move toward a healthier, more sustainable agricultural model, you give those farmers back a level playing field. If they don't have that, then they can't compete. Even if even if we're removing toxins from the foods, even if we accomplish the, the country of origin labeling for meats and things like that, that's only part of the battle. But you have to remove those egregious, crippling regulations that prevent independent and smaller farmers and ranchers from even having the ability to grow their crops or their herds and bring it to market. That's a big part of it, and that's something that Joel Salatin talks about. And Kennedy himself explains what happened to the pork industry through Smithfield, how they monopolized it. And it's fascinating because they put tens of thousands of pork farmers out of business, and the ones that stayed in business had to align with all of the policies of Smithfield, which really turned the pork industry into like a mega factory. And like and now it's like owned by China. We go to the store and my dad wants to buy the pork chops and stuff. And when we're in the store, I just say, we're not buying that. It's China meat. There's no telling what they did to it. And like I say it really loud. I'm like, you don't want that in your body. There's no telling. Like we don't even know their standards of how they're processing the meat. Are you kidding? We're not eating China meat. So it's, but it's true. I mean, our food supply has been co-opted and poisoned, and as a result, our population has been poisoned, and we have to put a stop to that.
So did I hear
So
right that in the last couple of days that he stopped the childhood vaccine uh,
the
order,
COVID
or
vaccine.
not the COVID, but just the vaccine
Oh, you mean the
schedule?
schedule?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that hasn't come
I don't
across
think that could have
my.
been done yet.
Well, I don't think stopped it, but he
Well,
No.
paused. I think the word I need to
maybe
say is
maybe
paused.
he's pausing it.
He's
Yeah.
paused it.
I mean, yeah, that could be. Because he's I mean, he's hitting a lot of resistance, obviously.
Should
From
have been
let
paused
me
30 years ago. I mean,
see.
So the way I kind of
Yeah,
look at this is Trump's tearing down government and getting our economy back, or not
yeah.
economy, but our finances back. Bobby Kennedy Jr.'s got kind of the health and the medical, and I hope he tears it down to the root, just like Trump's doing his part of it.
Yeah. That's a good, yeah.
And
I'm just looking this up.
I just saw that some executive from the FDA, some of the upper echelon, just took a job at Pfizer. How about that?
well, that's totally normal. Those guys flip
Yeah,
flop back and
they
forth all the
shouldn't.
time.
Yeah, they shouldn't be able to do that. I mean, it's crazy. I'm looking at. I just looked up if he paused the schedule, the
Yeah.
vaccine schedule. There's no concrete evidence that he's done that. But at his address to HHS employees on February 18th, he announced plans to investigate the vaccine schedule as part of a broader examination of chronic disease causes, stating that nothing is going to be off limits.
Okay.
So I imagine that he's I mean, I know he's very serious about this, about examining, what's going on. Um, and and because it's undeniable that our children are sick, that one in I think 36 has autism. That's no thinking person can tell you that that's normal. It may be common now, but it's not normal. Those aren't the same thing.
But look at the
So
statistics and the data projection for to go out to 2050. What it's supposed to be.
Like 1 in 5.
It's crazy. It used to
like
be like
nobody,
one in
why would
2000.
anybody? Yeah, why would anybody have a child if that's the case? And when I was growing up, there nobody that word didn't even exist. And neither did childhood obesity, childhood cancer. That wasn't a thing. And they're building all of these hospitals, like children's hospital. That should not be a thing. There should not be a children's hospital that is a billions of dollars of money making profit machine, to treat children with diseases that are largely preventable. Um, and I'm not making light of the fact that there are some children who do have serious issues, but the fact that we have such a proliferation of childhood cancer, of metabolic disease, of children with diabetes, that used to be called adult onset diabetes. Now it's you can't call it that because type 2 diabetes is now showing up in young children. That's not okay. And the complications of diabetes for a child are lifelong. I mean, it shortens your lifespan, and it's preventable and reversible. So something has to change. I think it's over 70% of our young men and women are not fit for military service.
I heard that same statistic like just a few weeks ago. 70%. I mean, think what other company we're getting laughed at by other countries. Totally laughed
Yeah,
at.
and you think about, like, you look at, okay, my stepdad, he's 87. He was he went in the military at 17, and and then, he went into he was like in an early program and then went into basic training at 18, like left home at 18, was out on his own, a full-grown man, um, in basic training, and then was shipped out to, I think, Japan and then Alaska. Like, that was it. Like, there was no coddling, nothing. He had to go through boot camp, all of that. And there was no question. I mean, the only people who didn't make it were people who had, uh like flat feet. There were a few things, like if you had diabetes, like type 1 diabetes, something like that, maybe post polio syndrome, things like that. But and it was devastating to get rejected from the military at that time. But now, and there's also the motivation for being in the military is very different too. Like, people who are signing up for the military so that they can get their trans surgery paid for,
Right. Well, there's no
or
more of that.
just to get the GI Bill, but they don't really care about the country. It's like a free ride. But that's a whole nother story.
Well, I think we'd be
Um,
remiss if we didn't talk about the medical part of it, the doctors, the medical schools, and just kind of want to,
medical journals.
yeah, just kind of want to pull this all in.
yeah,
We've
yeah,
got somebody that kind of has the inside, and he was told that one of the things that they're going to do, and I think he's involved with identifying a university or college that will be a medical school with 80% of the curriculum being nutrition, 20% being pharmaceutical. So I think they're going to flip that a little bit because
yeah,
obviously the doctors and the education system are all tied in with big pharma funded, all of that.
yeah.
So until we fix that, the complex is going to rule our treatment.
Oh, I agree, and I'm a huge advocate for taking personal responsibility for your health. I have several different doctors that I interview on a regular basis. I collaborate with Dr. Sean Baker. He's known as the carnivore doctor.
Oh yeah, he's
We
awesome. I've
Yeah,
been
so
telling
we're
Randy
doing
about him. Randy's like a total carnivore. He's like a total meat eater. I said, man, you need to buy Sean
he
Baker's book.
yeah,
You and I were together in December in
yeah,
Tulsa
he
when
was
Sean
there.
Baker was
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, so we're doing a collaboration now. We're doing a regular show, twice a month. And he looks like the Incredible Hulk.
He does. He's huge.
Um, yeah, yeah,
He's got biceps
but
bigger than you, Randy.
he's the nicest guy. He's so nice, and he's so knowledgeable. And the thing that is so important to him, it's not even that everybody is carnivore, but that people change from an ultra processed lifestyle to just, single ingredient foods. Even if we do that, that will put people light years ahead in reversing some of the problems that they have. Even if that's only the only step you can take,
Mm-hmm.
in reversing chronic disease, start with that, right? And so that's refreshing to have those conversations and to talk to people like him. And people, they're becoming more influential in this space, and they're also getting the voice of people in this administration,
Right.
which is fantastic. So we're in an amazing time. because on the one hand, things are super messed up. But on the other hand, we have access to people like him, and anybody with an internet connection can get access to life-saving, life-altering information and advice, and that's amazing. And then when you combine it with independent practices, functional medicine, naturopath, those types of things, one of the things that I think will happen with this administration is that people will have more freedom about how to spend their HSA money. That that I mean, the insurance industry is a whole different can of worms, but
Mm-hmm.
for people to be able to save that money and apply it toward their own choice, kind of like school choice, right? So maybe call it medical choice, something like that. I can see that type of thing becoming more prominent than having health insurance and being in a system where the insurance company dictates your medical decisions, because that's all kinds of wrong. People make the stupidest decisions based on what the insurance allows. It's awful.
You know, last night on a show, they were showing him sign an executive order for medical transparency, and it was on the pricing.
The
Where
bills, yeah.
yeah, and the way I don't totally understand it, but he talked about uh, not bidding, but negotiating. Well, I don't know any hospital that you can negotiate with, but you could sure, if you're having knee surgery, I want to see the itemized bill of what you're going to use,
Yep.
and I can go to the next hospital and do the same thing.
That's because Biden reversed that.
Right. That's right. You're
And
right. You're
I'll
right.
give you an example. So when my dad was in the hospital, he had a stroke in September. And we got the billing statements from the insurance, Blue Cross. And there was it's not itemized. So there was a medication that they gave him. It's like the clot buster medication they give you when you have a stroke. And it was something like they didn't put the name of the medication. They didn't put, it's like we don't even know what they just say medication or prescription drugs, $73,000 or something. And I don't know if that was for all the meds they gave him the whole time in the hospital, if it was for that shot. I don't know. And I don't know who gets kickbacks and how much this doctor gets. I'll tell you one thing, they're eager to give that shot. They are, they tell you that you have a 4-hour window. They want to know exactly when the stroke happened. And then when like I consented to the shot because we knew it was a stroke. I know for sure when it started. We were within the time frame. And when I consented, it was like the look of glee on the face of the doctor. It's almost like he won the lottery or
Here's my
something. It was
monthly
just like,
bonus.
Well, he probably did win the
yeah,
lottery.
yeah. And it was and looking back on it, of course you're in the moment and you're in the intensity of thinking like this is my loved one. They could live or die based on my decision, and I don't have time to phone a friend. There's no time. And so I'm making a decision based on what limited information I have. And they were pretty good about the informed consent piece. Like this could happen, this could happen, this could happen, because I asked them. But you're really at the mercy of the emergency that you're in a level 1 trauma center. And then you look back on it and go, golly gee, every time the doctor walked into the room to look at my dad, um, they billed insurance anywhere from $750 to $1,100, right? Even if he just walked in and kind of like felt my dad's feet or held his hand or did rounds, right? And you're like,
Did you by chance hear this as they walked in the room?
Sounds like you need new batteries in your
yeah.
stinger.
Yeah. Well, they had a robot in my dad's room. They called it a telesitter. And they actually, like, they had rented it. It was on they contracted for it. And the only way that I found out that is that I unplugged it.
Well, what's a telesitter do?
Just a
It's
remote monitor.
supposed well, no, it's a monitor, it's a camera. It looks like a robot. And it's supposed to keep the patient from hurting themselves. It's supposed to keep them from he had a nose tube. It's supposed to keep him from pulling the nose tube out. Well, twice my dad pulled his nose tube, and the telesitter sets off an alarm, and then the nurse comes in, and it didn't actually prevent him from touching it. It just told them he touched it. And so when when I unplugged it because it yelled at me, because it's a long story, but anyway, I unplugged it, and I figured out very quickly that that's the key to getting the entire medical team in the room in under 5 minutes, is to
There you go.
unplug the robot.
There you
Yeah.
go.
You can sit there and ask for the doctor all day long, and they'll tell you all kinds of reasons the doctor hasn't come in the room yet. But you unplug that robot, they are in there lickety split trying to convince you to plug it back in.
Unbelievable. Well, Mary
And I
Grace,
won. Anyway.
we would like for you to give our audience and our viewers and listeners one good piece of advice today, and then I want you to tell us where we can find you and follow you, subscribe,
Yes.
like, and support what you're doing.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. It's been really fun having this conversation. I would say this is my friend Boone Cutler says this all the time: protect your mind, control your emotions. And I think this is a really key piece of advice for anybody in any circumstance, whether it's personal, political, spiritual, because as we go through this administration, we're going to see a great many good and maybe bad surprises. And there's a constant demand for your attention. And so I think whenever something comes at you, just remember, protect your mind, control your emotions, and then take a step back, breathe, give it 24 to 72 hours and see how things shake out. And then, proceed. That's a good rule of thumb. Everyone can find me at marygracemedia.com. And you can find all of my social media platforms from the website. That's the easiest thing to do, marygracemedia.com. Thank you so much, you guys, for having me on the show.
Well, we love having you on. You're just she brings a sense of calm, Randy.
She does.
To chaos and insanity.
And see, I'm over. My wife says I'm over dramatic. So
you're a conspiracy theorist,
Well, yeah,
and she
I
kind
am.
of tapers that down a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just want to tell you thanks for having that skill set, because a lot of people, in this movement, I mean, even people we've had on our show are just go for the throat every time, and you kind of bring a sense of calm to this whole.
You make it hard to get
movement.
upset.
That's right.
Well, when I do get upset, everybody knows.
Well, I would be afraid to meet her in a back alley, Randy, if she and I were on wrong terms. So anyway, Mary Grace, thanks so much for joining.
Yeah. There's no guarantee that there won't be a throat punch somewhere if you go.
That's right.
Yeah.
We appreciate you coming on and sharing truth and doing what you do, and just keep in the fight, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, hope to have you back on. Take care.
Thanks.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode with Mary Grace. If you would, please go out there, like, follow, subscribe, and share on all our social media platforms.
And be sure to hit that notification button so you get notified when there's a new show coming out. And Darren, I was told that the more the people hit the like button and make comments, the faster the show grows.
And we need to grow. So guys, thanks again for watching. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care.
See ya.